Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Calvary Chapel Central's live stream. We may end up calling this just church after a while. We'll see how things go. Pastor Dan, you want to fill us a little bit on the information as far as broadcast times, things like that, church services?
Yeah. So obviously things are changing quickly. We're moving our Sunday and Wednesday services online, and we're going to use this format right here, our live stream format, to broadcast out our Sunday and Wednesday services. So on Sunday at 9:30 a.m., we're going to continue teaching through the gospel of Jesus. We'll have a time of worship beforehand. But again, log in to Facebook or our YouTube page, and we're going to be having service online. Wednesday at 7 o'clock as well. We're going to continue to have service. It'll be kind of like our Thursday format, where we're going to do sermon discussions. We'll do testimonies, interviews. The goal of our Wednesday night service will be staying connected as a church family. That's going to be very important during this time, that we stay connected. We want to be encouraging to one another. We want to be praying for one another. So really want to encourage you to continue to tune in on Sunday mornings at 9:30 and on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. Again, the broadcast, there's a few ways you can access this live stream. One, you can go to calvarycentral.org. There's a broadcast page, and on that page are links for Facebook or YouTube. Or you can just go directly to our Facebook page or our YouTube page and watch through those. Make sure you subscribe, and you'll get notifications that we're about to go live. If you need any help logging in at all, please let us know. We're here for you. You can email us at office@calvarycentral.org. You can reach out to us through the Facebook page. We want to make sure that everyone in our church body has access to our Sunday and Wednesday services as we kind of work through this ever-changing situation. So, again, any questions, reach out to us, please.
Also, another thing, and that is to make sure you tell friends, family, whoever wants to listen, that they can listen even on their phone. All they have to do is just have the Calvary Central link, either to Facebook or YouTube. They don't even have to have an account on those two, and they can actually listen to us. Well, in the face of this coronavirus, I want to read something to everyone this morning, and that is from a respiratory therapist. Let me just read this to you. It's probably one of the better explanations that I have seen, and it goes like this. Feeling confused as to why corona is a bigger deal than the seasonal flu? Well, here it is in a nutshell, and I hope this helps. Feel free to share this to others who do not understand. It has to do with RNA sequencing, genetics. Seasonal flu is an all-human virus. The DNA, RNA chains that make up the virus are recognized by the human immune system. This means that our body has some immunity to it before it comes around each year. You get immunity in two ways: through exposure to a virus or by getting a flu shot. Novel, or I don't know if it's novel or novel, but I'm going to call it novel. I'll probably call it both. The novel virus comes from animals. The World Health Organization tracks novel viruses in animals, sometimes for years, watching the mutations. Usually these viruses only transfer from animal to animal. Pigs in the case of the H1N1, birds in the case of the Spanish flu. But once, when these animal viruses mutates and starts to transfer from animals to humans, then it's a problem. Why? Because we have no natural or acquired immunity. The RNA sequencing of the genes inside the virus isn't human, and the human immune system doesn't recognize it, so we can't fight it off. Now, sometimes the mutation only allows transfers from animal to animal for years. Its only transmission is from an infected animal to a human before it finally mutates so that it can transfer to human, from human to human. So it starts animal to animal, animal to human, and then human to human. And once that occurs, we have a new contagion phase. And depending upon the fashion of this new mutation, that's what decides how contagious or how deadly it's going to be. H1N1 was deadly, but it did not mutate in a way that was as deadly as the Spanish flu. Its RNA was slower to mutate, and it attacked its host differently also. So fast forward. Now here comes the coronavirus. It existed in animals only for nobody knows how long, but one day at an animal market in Wuhan, China, in December 2019, it mutated and made the jump from animal to human. At first, only animals could give it to a person. But here's the strange part. In just 2 weeks, it mutated again and again, and gained the ability to jump from humans to humans. Scientists call this quick ability slippery. This coronavirus, not being in any form a human virus, whereas we would all have some naturally acquired immunity, it took off like a rocket. And this was because humans, again, have no immunity. Doctors have no known medicines for it. And it just so happens that this particular mutated animal virus changed itself in such a way that it caused great damage to the human lungs. That's why coronavirus is different from seasonal flu or H1N1 or any other type of influenza. This one is slippery. It's a lung eater, and it's already mutated again, so that now we have two strains to deal with, strain S and strain L, which makes it twice as hard to develop a vaccine. We really have no tools in our shed with this. History has shown that fast and immediate closings of public places has helped in the past pandemics. Philadelphia and Baltimore were reluctant to close events in 1918, and they were the hardest hit in the United States during the Spanish flu. Factoid: Henry the VIII, stayed in his room and allowed no one near him till the Black Plague had passed. This guy writes, honestly, I understand him so much better now. Just like us, he had no tools in his shed except for social isolation. And let me end by saying this, right now it's hitting older folks harder, but this genome is slippery. If it mutates again, and most likely it will, who is to say what it will do next? So social isolation is the solution for this. So he says, be smart, folks. Acting like you're unafraid is not the answer. So flatten the curve and stay home. Pastor Dan, do you want to share anything on that?
Yeah, we just wanted to kind of give a foundation for why we're doing what we're doing. And I know there's been a kind of the extremes. People are either panicking or they're acting pridefully. And we want to strike a balance. We want to listen to the experts. We want to make rational decisions, and we want to protect the most vulnerable within our church body and within our communities. You know, it's funny, we've been talking about on this live stream specifically and on Sunday mornings about trusting Jesus in the storm. We've been looking at Jesus training up his disciples to grow their faith in him. And now the storm's hit, and it's hit really for all of us in different ways, whether it be through our employers or through personal impact. The storms hit, the uncertainty is here. So now we're not just talking about it, we're living it. And I know that the Lord is calling us to continue to be the salt in the light in the midst of this chaos. And it's amazing that now it's practical. Now it's real for every single one of us. So what we want to talk about is how can we be the salt in the light in such a challenging time. And we want to talk about just a few real practical ways that we can continue to be the salt in the light, not panic, but also not be prideful as if somehow we're immune to all of this. So first and foremost, what we're doing right now is so vital. You need to stay connected. We all need to stay connected. In a time of social distancing, technology allows for us to stay connected, to stay fed, take advantage of our online streams. We need to continue to be the church. We may not be able to gather physically, but we can gather like this. This tool that we're using allows us to have live chat. It allows us to bring in guests, and it allows us to stay connected as the church. Also, and this is something that, again, personally, I know that I need to do as well, but we need to guard our minds. We're going to find that our minds are wandering. I know last night I almost felt overwhelmed as I was trying to fall asleep. And you're thinking not only about the coronavirus, you're thinking about how it's going to impact your family. You're worried about your job and your finances, and plus you're inundated with all kinds of new information. It seems like new news is coming out almost by the minute, and a lot of it is negative. So now more than ever, we need to put into practice that spiritual discipline of setting our minds on the things above. And we should stay educated, we should stay informed, but we also need to set our minds on who God is, what he's done, and what he continues to do. We're going to have some time on our hands. So, Pastor John, you want to share a few suggestions with all the time that we've got in front of us?
There's lots of us, a lot of ways that we can occupy this time. And I know that for Pastor Dan and I, it's been a real swap and change and trying to figure out a lot of things that concern and love for our congregation and how to keep our congregation engaged and to remain that family, to be that family. And so there's things like being able to start a Bible reading program. Maybe you've been wanting to be able to read more of the Word. There's lots of those out there and lots of those online. So there's no reason why you can't start a Bible reading program. Catch up on some of the things that you have been wanting to do and not been able to do. Calvary Chapel Central Phoenix is, our webpage is full of teachings. Pastor Dan, you've been at this now for going close to 10 years. I've been at this for a little longer than that. And so our website is full of present and past teachings, years and years of teaching. We've been through the Bible several times. So you can catch up on topical messages. You can catch up on any chapter of the Bible that you would like to catch up on. You can also, another thing that we can do, we can call people in our congregation, find out if they're okay, see if they're all right, maybe check up on some of the elderly, and use that time to maybe drop them off a loaf of bread. I know it's like gold right now. It sounds like the book of Revelation, doesn't it? But I know that there's people out there that in some cases can't get the necessary supplies, are kind of afraid to go out. So you can check on people, make sure that they're okay. If you have a bit of an abundance in one thing, check in with them. Also, FaceTime. If you have FaceTime with the ability to do a face-to-face chat with people, this is a great time to be able to do that. Also, pray with each other. Call each other up and pray with each other. Just encourage one another. This too shall pass. I think all of the media programs would like to lean towards this being, don't get me wrong, it's serious and we need to do our part, but they don't always give you the full truth, and they certainly don't give you much hope. There's a lot of misinformation that's going around. So do your best to do your research. Just because you hear something online or somebody says something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. The old saying, well, if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. Well, that's certainly not true. But God's word is always, always true. Pastor Dan, you want to share with a little bit?
Yeah, and I just want to remind everyone, in light of that, again, we're called to be the salt and the light. We're called to reflect the character of Jesus Christ. And as Pastor John said, that means that we should be a source of truth. And with all the misinformation that's going around, we need to do our research. And we got to remember that Jesus is not a good luck charm that protects us from sickness. There have been plagues throughout history. There's been wars throughout history. There's been persecution throughout history. And Christians have not been immune to any of those. He's not our lucky rabbit's foot that protects us from suffering, but he is the one who sacrificed himself to pay for our sins. He's done something far greater. And I saw a quote the other day that said, "Death used to be an executioner, but the gospel has made him a gardener," meaning that although we may die and our bodies may be placed in the ground, we will live forever with him. And again, I know death is not a popular subject at all right now, but the reality is Jesus isn't promising that we're not going to suffer in this life, but he is promising forgiveness of sins, which is far, far greater. So let's be careful that we're not sharing things that are theologically incorrect, and maybe things about this virus that we haven't researched. I saw the other day someone had posted that if you gargle with salt water, you can't get the coronavirus. Another post said that if you're a certain race, you can't get the coronavirus. Let's be careful about what we're sharing, especially as believers.
All information is bad.
Yeah, yes. And then again, to echo what Pastor John said, we need to put the needs of others above ourselves, especially the vulnerable among us. And again, the best way to go about this is through social distancing. We want to, as it's been said, spread out the curve. The worst case scenario is overwhelming our healthcare system with critical patients. And this is not a hypothetical. This has already happened in China. It's happening in Italy. It's happening in New York right now. So we're not talking about a might be or a maybe. We are already seeing what will happen.
What that means? That overwhelming the medical.
So what we're trying to do globally is avoid mass spread, so that there is a peak in critical cases. So there is going to be infection. The infection is spreading, but we want to slow that infection as much as possible. And that's the point of social distancing. We don't want to spike in the number of people who are critical, because that will overwhelm the healthcare system. There's only a limited number of respirators. There's a limited number of hospital staff, and there's a limited number of hospital beds. So if we can stay healthy, that's an act of love, because we're not taking up one of those beds. We're not taking up one of those respirators. So that is kind of the point of that. I know there's a lot of people out there that are kind of taking the, and we talked about this earlier, that we live in these extremes. People are either panicking or they're very prideful. Panic says that God is not in control. Pride says that I am in control. And neither of those statements are true. We know that God is absolutely in control. But to take this situation lightly just isn't responsible. We saw in China the impact that it's had. We have friends in Italy who are giving us firsthand information about the challenges their healthcare system is facing. People in New York and Washington, again, we're not talking about hypothetical situations. We have firsthand accounts from family and friends of what can happen. Again, this isn't to scare anybody. It's just the reality of what's taking place. So
if our nurses and our doctors get sick, guys, then there's nobody to take care of the sick. So, we do have to prepare, or we do have to protect, if you will, those first responders, those people that are out there laying their life down day by day, moment by moment. They can't just call in sick. They can't isolate. They're taking care of the sick. So we need to be kind to those people, and we need to do everything that we possibly can in order to protect those. And Pastor Dan, you and I were talking just right before the broadcast, and it's easy to think, well, it's the elderly that's the most vulnerable. Well, that's what you're hearing. That's true. But people Pastor Dan's age who are young, married, and they have 2 or 3, 4 children at home, they're concerned for their children. They're concerned for their little ones. So the only group that might not be as much at risk might be those young single folks. But trust me, if you get this virus and you're sick, you'll wish you hadn't gotten it, and you're going to wish that you had nurses and doctors to be able to take care of us. So really, there are some that are more prone but we're all vulnerable. We're all vulnerable in this.
And then another way, again, as the Central family, and really anyone that's tuning in, one important reason for staying connected is really doing our best to meet one another's needs as they present themselves. I've already heard from people within the fellowship, people who are going out and buying groceries for our older population and delivering those. If you need help, send up a flare. Let us know, and we'll do our best to connect you with somebody that is able to meet that need. Some of us are going to have an abundance during this time. Some of us are going to suffer lack. And that's what the church is here for, to lean on one another, to support one another. So let's keep communicating. In light of this, I know this is kind of a taboo topic, but the reality is the church exists because of people's generosity. I mean, obviously, the Lord is absolutely in control, but the reality is we're not gathering together physically. And we've been asked by a few people, how are they to give? If they're used to dropping off a check in the tithe box, how can they continue to support the ministry? And there's a couple ways you can do that. You can mail in your tithe, or your giving to Calvary Central, or you can use our online portal. And that's available at calvarycentral.org. And there's a donate link. And you click on that, and there's all the information about giving and tithing and how you can set that up. You can set up reoccurring payments. And again, we just want to be able to continue to use our resources to be the church, to meet the needs that present themselves, to love one another well, and put the needs of others before ourselves.
Amen. And every little bit helps, because we have a prime opportunity right now as a church. A lot of people look at this as all negative. It's not all negative. There will be people who will look to God during this time. There are people who will be asking Christians to pray. There are going to be people we might have an opportunity to minister to by simply buying paper goods or taking them over some food. So the needs don't stop. In fact, the needs actually seem like they've grown. And again, it just gives us an opportunity to be able to continue to do the things that we do as a church. That's the thing I would like to just pour out my heart in, and that is, we're still a church. We're still a church. We're still a family, and we need to continue to be that light in a dark world. I was sent this by a Calvary Chapel pastor, and I think it helps people to understand a little bit of what pastors are going through at this particular time with this particular issue. Pastor Dan and I and the board, we've had to make some difficult decisions, and they're not always easy decisions to make. I was sharing with Pastor Dan, there's something inside of me that wants so bad to just cast all the cares to the wind and just go to church and hug people and do what we do. But as we've shared before, we can't always do that. So we are faced with having to make some difficult decisions that we much rather would not have had to make. But let me read this to you. This article says this, what is your pastor thinking? This is a difficult time for everyone, and your pastor is no exception. He and other church leaders are trying to make decisions about ministering to your church and whether to meet for worship services. Please understand that this is a tough decision for him. If he decides to meet, he will be criticized for not following the government's directions and endangering people. If he decides not to call the church together, he will be criticized for not trusting God. Support his decision. He is making the best decisions that he can. Understand that there is no playbook for your pastor to follow. As I look back over my ministry as a lead pastor, I remember leading through the crisis of devastating tornadoes, tragic deaths, and the Murray bombing of 9/11. And other issues, but none of them were like this. So please be patient with the church leaders. What else is your pastor considering? I would imagine that he is concerned about the health of his family, his needs to be fearful about exposure because he could carry the virus home to his wife and kids. He is wondering about how the church can reach out to senior adults and what to do if a member catches the virus. And he is concerned about your church's finances. Several factors could provoke a downturn in contributions. The church's expenses are going up as leaders attempt to care for the church. So don't cut your giving, step up, and knowing that your faith is strong, as is your love for the church. So that gives you a little bit, not just from my words or Pastor Dan's, but from the heart of another pastor to help you know and understand that it's tough. It is tough. It's hard to make some of those decisions, but I pray that you guys would pray for us and know that we're doing the best we can to make the right decisions for our fellowship.
And one thing we promise to continue to do is exactly what we've been called to do. We're going to teach the word. So remember, join us Sunday mornings. Please stay connected. Human nature takes the path of least resistance. So there is going to be a temptation to fall away, to sleep in. And I want to encourage you to fight against that. Let's stay connected. So join us on this platform at 9:30 a.m. Let's worship together. Let's join together. And then let's work together to meet the needs of our fellowship as we've presented it. Let's share. If we find resources, let's put it out there. A lot of schools are doing school lunches programs right now. If you come across a good resource for people in need, share that resource. Alan, who's tuned in with us, he reached out to his credit card company and asked if he could skip a payment, and they said that he could. So if you find yourself in a financial pinch, reach out to your creditors. And it sounds like I've heard from many people they're going to be willing to work with you. I do want to share a couple of verses with you, just as words of encouragement. Remember, God's word is where we find our strength because his word is true and it's right. So Revelation 1:17 through Revelation 1:17 and 18. John writes, when I saw Jesus, I fell at his feet like a dead man. He laid his right hand on me and he said, don't be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, but look, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades. Jesus is in control. So panic is not the appropriate response because Jesus is in control. Pride isn't the appropriate response because we're not in control. Jesus is in control. He holds life and death in his hands. And let's not forget two wonderful aspects of God's character. He is all powerful and he loves us. That does not mean our life won't, on this earth, in this fallen world, won't be met with suffering, but we know how the story ends no matter what. Pastor John, you had a verse there from 2 Timothy. Do you want to share that?
Yeah. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And folks, we need to know and understand, yes, we have faith, we have trust, and we have hope sometimes where there doesn't seem like there is hope. We live in a world that is fearful. And let's be honest, we're human beings. Sometimes that'll creep in with us too. But let us try to remember that Jesus went to the cross for that. We got to put that on the altar. And I firmly believe this too shall pass. We'll survive this. We'll get through this, and we'll all be stronger for this. Let me close with this. Out of Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 13, it says, and finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. And make no mistake, the devil is at work in this too. And put on the whole armor of God, wiles of the devil, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand in this evil day, and having done all, to stand. So, folks, we need to make sure that we're standing. Put on the armor of God. Be brave and courageous. but also be wise in knowing there's people out there that they're afraid. But we as Christians, we got to keep holding on to the fact that Jesus, this is no surprise to Jesus. Jesus knows everything that is going on, and we need each other at this time. We really do. I would encourage us all, kind of limit your time on the social media as far as Facebook and some of the other places, because they're just a barrage of negativity and postulation. People are just supposing this or supposing that without any concrete evidence. So again, be careful with all of that. Pastor Dan?
Yeah, and again, help us spread the word. 9:30 a.m. on our Facebook page or our YouTube page, and again on Wednesdays. It will be a little bit of different format, but I think it'll be a lot of fun getting together at 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. Also, go online if you haven't already. Subscribe to our e-bulletin. That's how we get a lot of information as well. That's out as well. That's how we'll stay connected also. And please, if you need help, reach out. Let us know. We can't know that there's a need unless it's shared with us. Again, Yesenia, she works at Choices Pregnancy Center, and if you're short on wipes for your baby, they provide wipes every 30 days. So again, if you're able to provide and meet a need, let us know. Or if you have a need, let us know, and we'll work on connecting people together.
Before we go, Pastor Dan, I also want to say, folks, reach out to your friends. There's some people that are not connected, and they think you have to have an account on Facebook or have an account on Google. But all they have to do is have our pages, and they can log in even with their own phone, just their phone. So we need to get this message out as far as and wide as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Anything else, Pastor Dan, before we
No,
say?
we love you guys. We miss you guys. I know when we're all back together again, I know I personally am going to appreciate even more what it means to be a community and a body of believers. So I think that'll be one of the bright spots, that this gives us a little bit of perspective. Sometimes we don't know what we have until it's gone. So I pray that the appreciation that comes from all of this, our appreciation for one another, just grows immensely throughout all of this. But we love you guys, and we miss you very much.
And we need you more than ever.
Yeah.
We love you guys. Okay, thanks for watching, and tune in at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday, and we'll see you for our fellowship and our church service.
All right. God bless.
God bless.